Hello everyone, Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching. I have another Monday quarterback video for you. I'm going to play this video and talk about things that are going on to better explain what's going on and talk about things that I think that are being done right and or done wrong. This video does not follow a typical critical incident briefing video. The agency that this comes from is Sidney Police Department in Ohio, and they do not have a spokesperson for this video to explain what's going on or anything like that. So I will read to you a press release that came from them that they posted on December 28th on their website. On Wednesday, December 21, 2022, the community was left in dismay when a workplace violence event occurred. At approximately 8:01 a.m., the Sidney 911 Center received phone calls reporting of an active shooter at the Sidney Food Town, 1010 Wapakoneta Avenue. At 8:03 a.m., the first officer arrived on scene and entered into the store through the front doors to address the threat. This officer was armed with a tactical rifle and assumed a tactical position at the front of the store as he started his search for the suspect. Approximately 1 minute later, 3 more officers armed with tactical rifles arrived on scene. As they entered the building through the front doors to assist in the search, they immediately encountered the suspect as he was preparing to exit. During the encounter, all 4 officers gave verbal commands to the suspect to keep his hands up and to get down on the ground. The suspect did not comply with the officer's instructions, and he escalated the situation by brandishing a handgun from his right side and raising it towards the officers. All 4 officers engaged the threat by discharging their firearms. The suspect was transported to the Wilson Health by Sidney medics, where he was pronounced deceased. No other persons were injured during the incident. It is believed that the suspect's primary target of this incident was a female employee who worked at Sidney Food Town. Prior to police arrival, the suspect fired 1 shot outside from a vehicle before entering the store. Once inside the store, it is believed that the suspect fired 3 more times in the direction of his intended victim. Because this is a police-involved shooting incident, the matter has been turned over to Ohio BCI to investigate. The suspect involved in the shooting incident is Todd I. Jordan, age 53, address of 744 Brooklyn Avenue, Lot 16, Sidney, Ohio. The 4 officers involved have been placed on administrative leave. Pending a review of the incident, they are Officers Jason Villapiano, Andrew Shappy, Aaron Westbecker, and Sergeant Chris Burmeister. All right. Let's play it. Now, I will tell you, pay attention. He's going to disengage his sight covers off the rifle. You'll also notice that as he turns, there's a person standing in this doorway. I believe this may be an employee or a customer. I'm not 100% sure who they are. It's obviously not the person involved, but it's someone hanging around. I don't know for sure. I suspect that this person could have been the 911 caller and they were hanging around to direct police where to go, or they just worked there and they were, standing outside helping people as they came out. Other than that, I'm not really sure what this person is doing or why they're there. I will say that in a scenario like this, the best thing that you can do if you are unarmed is put as much distance between you and that scene as possible. What if the person came walking out of here and turned and went outside where this guy was at and then blasted him? So find yourself in something like this. You're not armed. Your best bet is to run. Get as much distance between the threat as possible. If you can't run, find a really, 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 really good hiding place. And if they find you, fight. All right. So he's got his rifle out. and we can see immediately that he does not have the sling utilized. He has the sling undone. I don't know if this is how the rifle stays configured, if it just has a loose sling or if it's kept stowed, bunched up alongside the rifle. And he's undone that stowage and it's just dangling. Slings are there for a reason. You should go ahead and put those on and utilize them. You don't have to put your arm all the way through it. You can just loop the sling around your neck, and that way the rifle will hang from your neck, much like a large necklace. It's almost like a one-point configuration at that point, but at least if you do that and for whatever reason both hands come off the rifle suddenly, the rifle is going to be slung to your body and you're not going to lose it. You're going to be able to retain it. We see that he is about to, he's aiming his rifle down this aisle, and we're about to see him pop off the dust covers on the sight. So dust covers are a nice thing to have, especially if your rifle is sitting out in the open and there's the possibility of some dust accumulating on the lens. If it is a rifle that is going to be stored in the cab of the vehicle, I could see the need for maybe a dust cover on there, because it can get over time dusty in the cab of the vehicle. If it's going to be stored in a rifle bag and that rifle bag is kept in the cargo hold of the vehicle, I don't necessarily see the need for the sight caps on there to keep the lenses protected, because it's going to be less likely that dust is going to be getting in there. So a lot of times you can get by knocking those things off, and whenever you go to take the rifle out of the vehicle and put it indoors, you can use a lens cloth to reach down in there and do some swiping and get the lens cleared of any debris and dust. Otherwise, this is something that as you get your rifle out, you will want to immediately disengage the sight covers, and that's something that you should build into muscle memory, so that when you go to get the rifle out of wherever, you grab the rifle, you automatically hit the dust caps on there, knock those out the way. If you keep the rifle stored with the sight in the off position, then you're going to want to get in the habit of also turning those sights on, disengaging the sling, how it's stowed, getting it on there and charging it. So the only way to get that down to muscle memory is to have the rifle in its position where you're going to be retrieving it from, and then do that multiple times. Unfortunately, that's just not going to happen in normal rifle classes, because the rifle is going to be right up there on the line with you somewhere, and it's already going to be set up to be shooting. So unless your range officer, trainer, or whatever will have you go back to the car, get the rifle, go through those steps, get up to the line, and then shoot, you're not going to be able to build up those muscle memories. So it's something that you may have to end up doing on your own with a dry rifle. All right, enough talking. Let's move.
Yes, respond. You have a different lady that they're wanting you to sit down.
Deli? So it sounds like he is talking to the guy at the door. And it sounded like he said deli, as in the meat department.
So I'm inside right now.
He was responding. My caller is hiding in the office at the time of my child.
Station, if they're at the front, go ahead and have them exit by the registers. I have that covered.
So for some reason, he decides to hold up here and not move any further. I would have liked to have seen him start to move deeper into the building itself, but he doesn't do that. So when he first enters in from up here at the front door, there's a couple of aisles that he can look down before he gets to right here that kind of blocks a lot of visual going down these aisles. He gets here, and then now the only thing he can see is basically just where he came from and down this way. You can tell that if he goes forward, he'll have to look down this way, see what's in behind here, and then it looks like there's an opening right there, potentially. No, it looks like he might end up having to go all the way down that aisle and look down that way. But from roughly here to here, there's probably 3 aisles, maybe at most, that he could not see down. So these 3, I guess you could say, are unsearched at this point. As far as cover goes, these aisles, these shelvings right here, are not going to be stopping rounds very well at all. Where he's at is actually a pretty decent form of cover. It will only take so many rounds before it no longer becomes great cover. But compared to the rest of what's inside this building, this is probably the best cover he could be behind. You got lots of liquid that incoming rounds are going to have to contend with. The aluminum can themselves, it'll shred right through them. If all these from... let's back it up so we can see a better overall view of it. So from beginning of shelf to here, if these were just empty aluminum cans, damn right, it'd go from front to back, no problem whatsoever. But because there is liquid filled inside these, they're going to terminate pretty quickly into this mass of liquid. It's no different than having big water barrels in front of you to stop rounds. So, not a bad place to be at, in my opinion. But, again, like I said, it's only going to take so many rounds before, you start bursting a bunch of cans and basically chiseling your way through this cover. But the shelves over here, the aisles and everything, the round's going to go straight through whatever's on them and then out. There might be some stuff over there that will slow the round enough or even terminate it in the spot, but it will not be doing as good of a job as this big old pile of cans full of liquid will do over here.
By the registers, I have that covered. Hands! Get your hands up! Hands up! Hands up! Hands up!
Get down! Get on the fucking ground! Get down on the ground! Go! Do not reach for anyone! Go! Get on the ground!
Alright, we'll back this up.
Hands up! Hands up!
Get down!
So you can see that the suspect is right in here. He came from somewhere back in the store and has walked up to the checkout lines right here. We can also see that we have Pop-Tarts for $3.49. I don't know if that's a good deal or not. I don't eat Pop-Tarts, but that just popped out in front of me. Get it? Popped out. Anyway. So he takes a kneeling position. And I'm suspecting that he's taking this kneeling position to better stabilize himself to make a more accurate shot. The downside to this layout right now is if this guy decides to step out this way, boom, it is now a crossfire kind of scenario. So in something like this, where you have greater numbers on this side over here, and this guy does decide to move, I think that the best thing this officer could do is just completely remove himself from the background, allow the greater numbers to take over, and then move off the X. Like, just go down the other aisle and get away from this, because if they start shooting and you start shooting, it's going to be a crossfire kind of scenario.
Get on the fucking ground! Get down on the fucking ground! Go! Do not reach for anyone! Go! Go!
So it's like he fires maybe 2 rounds from his rifle. No idea if he hit him. I would suspect that he probably did. At least that first round probably hit. But I don't know that for sure. They don't obviously release any information about the autopsy and how many times he was hit, and versus how many rounds were fired. Immediately upon firing, you hear a bunch of noises going off. Now, what are those noises? I suspect that it's possible that those are fire alarms going off. When the rifles fire, of course, smoke comes out the gun, right? And that can cause smoke detectors to go off.
Get on the ground! Is this him? Is that the guy? Get on the ground! Hands up! Get on the fucking ground!
Don't!
Do not reach for anyone!
Don't! Don't!
Shots fired, suspect down, 752. Hey! Fire! Hands up! Get on the ground!
You can still see the same dude hanging out at the front of the store.
Is this him? Is that the guy? Get on the ground! Hands up! Get on the fucking ground!
Don't!
Do not reach for anyone!
Don't! Don't!
You can see the gun has fallen right there.
Shots fired, suspect down, 752. Hey! Get out! No! Get out! No! Get down on the ground! Get down on the ground! Don't! Do not reach for anyone!
Don't!
Reach for on the ground! Hands up! Get on the fucking ground!
Don't!
Do not reach for anyone!
Don't!
Shots. Is this him? Is that the guy? Get on the ground! Hands up! Get on the fucking ground!
Don't!
Do not reach for anyone!
Don't!
Shots fired, suspect. Get on the fucking ground!
Don't!
Do not reach for anyone!
Don't!
Shots fired, suspect. Hands up! Get on the fucking ground!
Don't!
Do not reach for anyone!
Don't!
Shots.
So I can't really fully figure out what that ka-chink noise is. It could be him charging the rifle. He may have experienced a malfunction, and he's working the charging handle on it. Or it's possible. I don't think it's possible that he tried to fire and it didn't shoot. I think you could see smoke coming out the gun.
Ground! Is this him? Is that the guy? Get on the ground! Hands up! Get on the fucking ground!
Don't!
Do not reach for anyone!
Don't!
Shots fired.
I don't know. It's hard to say what that noise is. If he is charging the gun, then there's 2 possibilities going on here. First possibility is he fired a round, tried to fire some more, it didn't work, and he's working that charging handle to try and get the gun to cycle and put a better round in. Or it could be that he tried to fire, nothing happened because he never did charge it to begin with, and now he's charging the gun. And what I was talking about earlier with that one officer having to remove the sight covers on his rifle, that is something that when you get the rifle out of its storage place, that is something that you need to build up muscle memory on doing. Because as I noted earlier, typical rifle classes do not involve the rifle itself being initially stowed in the car where it's normally going to be kept at, and then the student going and retrieving that rifle from the car and then taking it to the shooting line to complete the shooting drill. It always starts at the table or at the shooting line. So again, you need to get your rifle, get a dry rifle, take a training mag with some dummy rounds in it, pop that in there, and do some repetitions where you go to get the rifle out of its storage place, whether that's in the rifle mount itself, within the cab of the vehicle, or it's in the trunk or cargo hold of the vehicle. It's inside of a rifle bag or something. Go through the process of going to where it's at, getting the rifle out, charging it, sling it, throw the sight caps off, turn the sight on, whatever things you need to do to get that rifle into fight. Get those repetitions down enough times to where when it does happen in real life, you automatically do those things without thinking about it. So we have a more older school type of setup here. They got the full-on carry handle right here, and they got this old school aim point gooseneck sight holder right here that puts the red dot right on top of the forearm. That's an old way of doing it. This is like 1990s kind of shit right here. This is stuff that you would see, old school pictures of fucking Delta Force back in the 90s. This is how they rock their fucking aim points on these little gooseneck mounts. Looking at the stock here on this rifle, I'd say this is probably, a rifle from the early 2000s. It could be newer, not 100% sure, but, these could be some dated rifles. And that could be because this agency doesn't have a whole lot of money to be able to afford buying a bunch of new rifles. They already got these rifles in play. They've had them for a while. They still work. They're still good. Their administrator may not see the need to buy new rifles or anything like that. It's so hard to tell. I don't even know if these are fixed carry handles or if they're detachable. But if they're fixed, then that means these things have got some age on them.
Go! Shots fired, suspect down, 52. Hey, don't!
A lot of them seem to be set up similar. The magazines have red tape wrapped around them.
Shots fired, suspect down, 52. Hey! Get out! Now! Get out! No!
You can even see this rifle over here.
Get down on the ground!
Has the forward gooseneck set up for the aim point as well. So these rifles are all pretty similar to each other. So that tells me that at least the rifles are agency rifles and these are issued out. There's some places that let officers have their own rifle and bring it to work, but not many of those places exist. We can see what looks like a Streamlight weapon light mounted to probably the A post right here on the rifle. Taking a light that is traditionally or originally made for a handgun and putting it on a rifle can still work, but it's best to have a rifle dedicated light on that rifle. Unfortunately, with the way they have their setup here, having a nostalgic moment from the fucking 1990s, they're kind of limited on what they can do with their rifles here in terms of putting a bunch of stuff on the front there.
Get the fuck on the ground! Get down on the ground! Get on the ground! Don't! Do not reach for anything! Don't! Get down on the ground! Get on the ground! Don't! Do not reach for anything! Don't!
It's so hard to get the freeze frame just right, but you can see that pistol shape as it comes out.
Get on the ground! Don't! Do not reach for anything! Don't!
That's probably the best freeze frame I'm going to get, but you can see it. It looks like a revolver here. Don't know what this guy was intending to do with the handgun. Of course, you can hear them giving multiple verbal commands for him to drop, get on the ground and everything. Does not do it. Instead, he reaches down and he pulls the gun out. Now, the way he has it held here, and I'll even hit replay again.
Don't! Do not reach for anything! Don't! Do not reach for anything! Don't! Don't! Do not reach for anything! Don't! Don't! Do not reach for anything! Don't!
Alright. It's so hard to get the freeze frame just right, but he does pull the gun out. Does he pull it out in a manner that is 100% no doubt an aggressive, I'm about to shoot you move? Not necessarily. But just because he pulls the gun out like that doesn't mean that he could not become aggressive towards them and point the gun at them. They have given him so many clear and concise verbal instructions that what I think is going on, this guy has decided to pull a suicide by cop type of move here, where he knows that what he has done is completely wrong. He tried to shoot a woman, and he knows that he is going to be going away for a while. He may be feeling some very deep feelings of hopelessness, that nothing's going to get better. He's a huge failure. His life's over. It's better to die, etc. And he is just reaching into his pocket and pulling the gun out just so that they will shoot him. It's plausible that he had no intentions of actually shooting them. It's plausible that the revolver he has is empty. He fired all his rounds and is incapable of shooting them. But there's no way for these officers to know that. There is no way for them to be able to look at that revolver and know whether or not it's loaded, unloaded, it has empty casings in there, whatever. There's no way for them to read his mind to know whether or not he has actual true intentions of shooting them or not. They have no way of knowing that all he plans to do is just pull the gun out to scare them into shooting them. Cops are not mind readers. They can't. No one's a mind reader. That doesn't exist. So, based off all the verbal commands given, based off the fact that there's multiple 911 calls saying that he was shooting at people, etc., these actions that he takes are 110% indicative of him becoming violent. It's only when we get to replay the video multiple times that it may appear as though he wasn't really intending to want to shoot at them, that he was just pulling his gun out to get them to shoot him. In the moment when they first get there, and this happens just mere seconds afterwards, and they have a split second to decide, those are the conditions. They don't have all the time that you and I have to go back and look and replay, pause, replay, pause, replay, pause. They have to make a decision right then and there. And based off his actions and all the circumstances going on, he is a deadly physical threat. So these officers responded appropriately by using deadly physical force against him. They did not fire a whole lot of rounds. I would say probably no more than 10 rounds were fired. I don't know that for sure, but I would suspect that no more than 10 rounds were fired. These rifle rounds being fired into his center mass had immediate physical incapacitating power. If they had all been armed with pistols, then it's likely that they may have had to have fired more than 10 rounds, and it's possible that they may not have gotten immediate physical incapacitation by using nothing but pistol. I love the fact that they have responded to this call with rifles. All of them have rifles. That's the way it needs to be done. When going to a high-risk call like this, or any call involving weapons or circumstances that could lead to a deadly physical fight, rifles need to come out. Or shotguns. Long guns need to come out. Because those are better fighting weapons. A pistol, although it can cause physical incapacitation, it can be lethal, it's not as good as a fighting weapon as a rifle is. The only reason pistols are carried is because they are convenient and comfortable. And in an emergency, when it's needed, they can perform. They can incapacitate, but they just do not do as good of a job as the rifles do. When you think about law enforcement day in, day out, cops are not out shooting people left and right every single fucking day. Look at your hometown. When's the last time your local agency had an officer-involved shooting? And if it was recent, try to think about before that. When was the last time an officer-involved shooting occurred? If you're in one of those big areas where your law enforcement once a month, it seems like, is having an officer-involved shooting, well, look at it that way. Is it every single day of the month? Is it multiple times every day of the month? No, it's not. And that is part of the reason why cops carry pistols, because they're just not getting the gunfights at a very high rate. If it was like a war zone every single day for law enforcement, and they were getting in the gunfights multiple times a day, I would hope that we'd see a paradigm shift and officers be carrying rifles under those circumstances, but it's just, that's not where we're at right now with domestic law enforcement. So pistols can be worn all day, and the officer never has to use it on anyone. The majority of law enforcement go their entire career and never have to shoot anyone. They may point their guns at people, but they never have to shoot anybody, for the most part. And that, I think, is part of a contributing reason why we see officers get out of their car and go into situations with just their pistol only, because they're not used to getting their rifles out. They're always so used to pulling their pistol out and getting, a situation resolved with just the pistol pointing at someone. And they're just not getting in the gunfights like that all the time. But I also think that a lack of good training is another contributing factor on why we don't see officers get out with rifles more often. But these guys, they all get out with their rifles, so that's good. That's one of my biggest gripes in these videos, is officers not getting their rifles out when they should. But these officers, they did the right thing. They got their rifles out, and here we are with it. No other information about why he did what he did. It just said in the article that his intended victim was a female employee. It could be that This guy worked in the back somewhere. He was a stalker. He worked in the deli. I don't 100% think that he was probably working the counter up here, checking people out or anything like that. And the female employee could have been, it could have been someone that he was in a relationship with that worked there. It could have been a manager. It could have been someone else that, told on him, got him in trouble, got him fired from his job, whatever. There's a multitude of different reasons why someone would get in that headspace to think that, going in and shooting people is the right thing to do. I just wish they would have provided more information on that, because I think that's important information for people to know about, just to understand the scenario a lot better. That's it. That's all I have to say about this. If you like what you hear and see, go ahead and give me a like and a share. If you have not already, hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for more Monday quarterback videos. Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching.